let's go ahead and get started. And first of all, thanks for coming. I know some of you were here yesterday. Others I'm seeing for the first time. My name is Scott Zimmer. I'm the University Librarian at Alliant. And what that means is I'm director here at the San Diego Library, and then I supervise the other campus libraries too. And yesterday, if you were here, obviously you're aware that we talked about library research and how to access different kinds of resources. And today what we're doing is sort of a half-and-half transition session. Here with me is Todd Havert from the Writing Center in the Academic Support Center. Is that right?
That's right.
That's right. So I just had a few elements of writing tips or guides. Hopefully that'll be helpful. Mine are much more general and probably less useful than what Todd is going to be covering. So I'm going to spend some time at the beginning talking about mainly what I wanted to address are things that I've heard from students over the years who are having difficulty with the writing part. Specifically, a lot of their problems have to do with making Microsoft Word behave, for example, or other tips and techniques as you go along and get the thing on paper. So, yes. Did you have a question? Okay. If anyone does have a question, please feel free to interrupt me. Okay. So, let's see. Just a little comedy to get us started here. I don't know if I realized after I put this together that some of you may not have been using Microsoft Word long enough to remember Clippy, who used to be the person trying to help us when we were using that product. So he wasn't that popular. Hopefully we'll make a little more progress than he did. One of the first pieces that I wanted to talk about was overall document formatting. And before we get into that, maybe some of you could share what stage you're at in the process. I mean, have you all started writing? Are you just at the data gathering stage, or sort of like a pilot study?
Yeah,
or?
like a pilot study, right. So I kind of wrote up about that.
Okay. Just a little more general question. Overall, whether on this writing assignment or a previous one, what kind of obstacles have you run into? What things have brought you here today, if you could tell us? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sometimes, this probably seems crazy, but when I learn something, I learn it, and then I begin to speak the language, and then when I go to write, when I turned in one of mine before, it said that, I was cited. I didn't cite the source correctly, but I forgot where it came from, and then I started speaking the same language, and I sound like the author.
Right. And suddenly you're guilty of plagiarism.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, that's why I was asking about who said yesterday, what about, once you start using drugs out, because I couldn't find it, so I had to go back to my paper, spent weeks saying, okay, who said that, action brings about change, okay, that's Haley. And so once you really learn something, then you can speak the language and you forget where those words came from in that structure. So.
Yeah. I think it's because I have a lot of articles, but sometimes I don't know how I organize my whole articles. And the issue is that when I use some citation, I try to maybe later I would like to find the same authors. So I would like to know some of the tips so when I go back, maybe use the notes or OneNote.
Okay. Very good.
Personal communication. I mean, I know how to do it, but when I read, sometimes my fellow students, they don't know how to cite it. And you got to know, so if you're a professor, is telling you something, or you heard it in one of his lectures, you got to be able to cite that properly. That's a little bit different. And so I think that citing seems to be a lot of problems there. There's different ways to do it. APA came out, the manuals made 1,000 mistakes, and so...
Doesn't it make you feel better about your own work then?
Yeah, right. They can't get it. That's right. I had to go back to the other one,
And how much latitude is there really in the formatting options? I mean, I'm curious to know that. I've heard that different professors have different expectations. I'm glad you put that there. Than APA has its expectations. Is there latitude for movement in there, or is this pretty much a cookie cutter way of approaching it? probably your question.
To be honest, I'm new enough here that I don't want to make something up.
Well, my best advice is to check with your program, because there is variability. It even says in the APA manual itself that it's a living document, it's subject to interpretation. One thing that I found through prior experience is that professors have their own views of APA rules and interpretations of APA rules, and what I suggest to students is do what each professor tells you to. Don't argue with your professor. But also, another aspect of APA as it applies to the dissertation is to check and see what your program guidelines are, because sometimes they may vary, not so much for the APA programs, but for HSOE or MTSM doctoral programs. There may be some variability between what APA wants and what the program wants.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you were looking for a hierarchy of authorities, it sounds like first go with your chair and your committee members, then your program and department, and after that, APA.
So whenever we got to you, if we needed to come to you, do we need to give you the chronology of that too, so you or the people that work for you won't say,
it's helpful because we don't want to give contradictory advice. A lot of times we're going to say go back to your chair or your committee and follow what they advise. But another thing that comes up is sometimes there is an issue where the book doesn't really address what your particular citation type is, and what the manual says is choose a type that's similar. The citation type is similar, and go with that, follow that format.
Great. So yeah, that is why I put that first. Another thing that I'm a big fan of is when it comes to formatting this whole document, what I've seen happen over years of working with students, sometimes as an editor, other times just as a librarian, is a lot of people will concentrate on the writing part of it because that's the most stress-inducing, and they'll write all the different chunks, and then they get near the end when it's getting close to time to graduate, and they want to put all those things together, and it's a whole other kind of suffering that they have to go through because you've got maybe 20 different documents, different pagination, different margins, different formatting completely, and you want to synthesize all those. So I don't know if you run into that in the Writing Center too, but...
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what I usually try to urge people to do is spend the time at the beginning, invest it up front to get all the formatting correct, and then as you go along, you can jump down and work on the literature review for a couple of weeks, then jump up in the same document, finish your introduction. You'll have the whole thing basically in the order that it's supposed to be, and you're just filling in the spaces that you've left. So, for what that's worth. Another thing that we run into a lot is obviously people have personal crises or disasters of one kind or another and lose all or part of their documents. So, yeah.
No, the last dissertation, I lost the entire thing 5 days after I finished the dissertation.
But that's 5 days after.
That's okay.
Not 5 days before.
You didn't even want to see it again.
Horrible feeling, still.
Right. So another thing that you want to do up front is think about how you're going to be backing this thing up. And I heard from one student who she had a copy on her laptop and a copy on her desktop computer. Her house burned down. Both computers were in there. So there goes her backup. So what you want to do is have multiple backups and have them in different places. Ideally, one of them should be online too, because that way there's this whole other set of professionals that are responsible for making sure that it's intact all the time. So that can be as simple as emailing it to yourself on your Yahoo account or Gmail account, and that way you've got at least one version of it stored there. Ready? Not to plug a service, but honestly, they don't pay me. There's one called Dropbox, which is really very nice. It's basically an online file storing application where it synchronizes with a folder that's on your computer. So you can just have a folder on your desktop that has all of your dissertation documents in it, anything from research to the documents that you're writing, and you set up a Dropbox account to link to that one. Anytime there's a change to one of those, they synchronize with each other so that they're always up to date.
So it's free, the Dropbox?
It's free. You get 2 gigabytes of storage space, which is usually more than enough for dissertation. It's a web service, basically. You can pay for more storage space if you need it, but like for this, 2 gigabytes should be plenty. And there are other services like that. That's just a fairly popular one. Alrighty. So again, these are some of the issues that I would run into frequently working with students. And they're not difficult to set up, but when you're trying to juggle all the contents of the research study that you're doing and handle this stuff, it gets to be a little frustrating. So things like getting the margins correctly, page numbers. Quite often people will run into trouble because the initial pages of the dissertation are supposed to be a different pagination. They're in lowercase Roman numerals instead of Arabic. So people have difficulty with that. Several people mentioned APA reference, how to format different types of material. Sometimes the manual is not entirely clear about that. And then there's the citation management software that I'm going to spend most of my time today looking at. One thing I wanted to suggest about APA references, to start off with that one, what I see people doing quite often is you find an article in one of the databases, and because you found it on the internet, the tendency is to try to cite that as if it's a web page, where you say, last accessed on, and then give this huge web address. And I usually suggest that people sort of pretend that you have the actual paper document with you, because you're looking at a PDF version which is identical to the paper anyway. So why not make it easy on yourself and just cite it as if you had the paper? Because you could just hit print and then you would have the paper, right? So that's a big one that I see going through people's bibliographies. Let's see. The page number issue, usually and I apologize for everybody who knows this backwards and forwards, but in Microsoft Word, there's something called a section break, which basically lets you define different chunks of the document that still look the same. So you use section breaks to tell it, number this section this way, and then the next section you number this way. So I didn't want to spend a lot of time going over how to do that, but I did want to throw it out there so you know that it is possible. And if you have questions or want me to demonstrate it, feel free to let me know. Any questions before we start looking at some of the citation? Yes?
Sure, I'd like to see that.
You would? Okay. I think, let's see, in Microsoft Word, let's see. I haven't actually done it in the new version of Word, so pardon me while
that new version, I'm not sure if I like it. I can't find it.
It's a little challenging.
Isn't it insert?
Yeah, that's where we are.
But under pages, on the way to the left, you'll see page break.
Page break. What?
That's page break. We want section break.
What is that under page layout by chance?
Maybe, yeah.
In there.
Ah, there we go. Breaks.
There you go.
So now they're calling it continuous. So it's a continuous section break. And, I just did this, accidentally I did this page break. Continuous section break is not going to make a visible break, but it's going to make a formatting break. So.
And why would you use this?
Usually where it comes in handy is like, the first 10 pages or so of the dissertation are numbered by Roman numeral, I think, right? Depending on the preferences of the committee. So the trick that people run into is trying to get the numbering scheme to change from Roman numerals and then start over in Arabic numerals on page 1. So this would be a way around that.
I'm taking notes of what you're saying because some of this is new to me and some of it is just like press your button. Do you have like an outline of some of this, or is there a reference book to?
Not so much a reference book. I can certainly.
A page, a sheet.
Yeah, I can send you the slides if you would like to.
But you can also Google search it and figure out that if you wanted to know how to do section break in Word, just put section break in Word, and it's going to give you 5 gazillion people telling you how to do it.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess the main idea of this, this part of it is that for all these little annoyances, there is a way around it. It's just a matter of finding out what it is. So feel free to dig it up yourself or to check in with one of us, and we can point you in the right direction.
Can you do it here?
Sure. I think you don't notice anything. Yep. It's not displaying right now because...
Insert page number?
Right. Then what's happening is up here, and in this is one section, so we could have this, all in italics and numbered in Roman numerals, let's say. And then when we get down here, instead of continuing that, it's a new section, so we can start making the text look different.
And I also have a question. If you have the APA manual from the last one, is there anywhere that we can get uploads, or shall we buy a new one? Because they made some changes, and I'm not sure if it's available online to give us differences.
I think what's available online is they're usually guides written by third parties.
When I get to my presentation, I'll address that.
Okay. Alrighty. So let's go back over here. And I wanted to moving into citation managers, which is what most of this is going to be about. What these are different applications that help you keep track of all the literature that you've located and that you're going to be citing in your paper. And the idea is that, hello. Let's do that way. Okay. The idea is that you've got too much to keep track of, so the program is going to help you do that, and it's also going to help you format and generate a bibliography at whatever point you're ready to. Most of these programs also help you insert citations at any point in the text, like a running citation. One of the premier ones that's available is EndNote, and the retail price is kind of steep, around $250. I think there's an academic discount available, but not positive. Frankly, I'm not too fond of it. Not only because of the price, but it has some other limitations. There doesn't, as far as I can tell, there's no online synchronization of the document library that you're defining. And what I mean by that is you have like a folder full of all the articles that you've located, so you can refer to them later. So some of these services synchronize, like we were talking about Dropbox, where you've got a copy on your local computer and then you've got a copy on the internet. Not so with EndNote, as far as I can tell. There are 3 different modes that you can use EndNote in. One of them is called EndNote Web, which is an online interface that helps you can enter citations and manage them that way. Obviously, the nice thing about that is you can access it from any place, but it does have some limitations too. The second mode is using the EndNote client, which is a program that when you pay the fee, you install it on your computer. And the way it works is, let's say you're searching one of the EBSCO databases, and you mark a bunch of articles, and when you're done searching, you're going to do what's called export those citations in EndNote format. So it's going to output a little file that you then import into EndNote. Does that make sense? Not really? Yeah. See if I can quickly demonstrate what that looks like. So we're just going to identify a few citations here. And I'm adding them to our online folder. So I'll go look in there. And let's see. So now I can select all of the ones that I've found through my exhaustive literature search and try exporting those. And then over here, you'll see that I have different options: direct export to EndNote, ProCite, or Reference Manager. These are all different citation management applications. Direct export to EndNote Web, that's the one I just mentioned, where since it's on the internet already, this database will just send it on over there. Or you can choose one of these other formats. There's XML, Mark21, RefWorks. RefWorks is the one that we have, right?
Reference point.
Oh, Reference Point. I'm totally out base. So the idea is, let's see. I'll choose generic bibliographic management software. Do save. Nice. And then I can save this to, let's see, file, save as a text file. So then I've got all my beautiful citations here. And what I would do is I would start up the EndNote application and then tell it that I want to import results from my latest search session. And I would point it toward this thing, and then it's going to import all the details that I just got out of that database. Some of you seem a little skeptical, and I agree with you. I've never actually used a citation manager because I would rather do it myself as I go along. And part of me still recommends that. I think it's not as complicated as we make it out to be. But for those of you who are interested in trying something like this, just going to throw it out there. So that's a really quick version of how EndNote would work. And that's the method where we import and export. And why is that not working? I blame IT again. So you can see how it would become kind of tedious to have to you do a search, mark the ones you want, export them all, then import them into the EndNote application itself. So there is another method of doing it, which is, if anything, even more complicated. And that's to use the EndNote program as sort of a plug-in to the databases that you want to search. And the way that works, instead of going out to EBSCOhost the way I did, you would do all your searching and locating of documents right inside EndNote. And that way, since it's talking directly to the database, it can pull in everything you want. Problem is that it's incredibly complicated to set up, and usually it would take you less time to do the searching yourself and to manually create the bibliography than it would to get this thing configured correctly. And you have to do it for each and every database. So no thanks. So EndNote, in case you would like to spend $250 on something. It does have, fairly standard options as far as citation managers are concerned. It can, like I said, it can insert the citations into the text that you're writing. It can generate a bibliography, but at a hefty price, and also a big investment of time. Before we go, let's look at Zotero too. Another one of these is, this one is free, so it's a little bit better, and it's called Zotero. And this was developed by, I think, George Mason University as an alternative to EndNote. And they actually got sued, so you can tell they did a pretty good job. The way this one works is it's a plugin for the Firefox browser. So you would have to be using that browser to be able to take advantage of it. And let's see. So all of its operations take place within the web browser. And it does have an option where you have an online account that has 100 megabytes of storage. So it does have that ability to back up what you're working on. Let's quickly take a look at how that goes. Not sure everybody can see, but using Firefox here, and because I have the Zotero plugin installed, I get this little option box right down here. And what it does is, let me do it like that. Anytime you click on it, you're still within the browser, and you can still continue doing your work up on the top. But it also pops up this bottom thing, which helps you create and manage a library of documents. And these documents obviously are going to be either articles that you've found in online databases, or if you find a really useful web page, then you can create a record for that. So basically what you're doing is creating a mini library of the documents that are relevant just to your research. So here in the Zotero panels, we can create different categories of the library. We can add items to it. So let's see what this is. when we add items to the Zotero library, we can categorize them. Is this a magazine article, journal article, part of a book, what have you. And then there are a number of other options here too. Let's see.
And how did you set it up? How can you do that?
How do I install it? Okay, let's see here. Again, you would have to be using Mozilla Firefox because it's designed just for that platform. And what you do is you go up to Tools, Add-ons, and you can search for it, like right here. Let me try something. Just type in the name of it. It's not, since I already have it installed, it's not showing it to me, but usually you would just, you would click on a button like this, Add to Firefox, and it's going to go out and grab that for you. So you just click on Install Now. And then once the installation completes, it'll ask you to restart the browser, and then you'll be able to start using Zotero. Yep, restart Firefox to complete your changes. So you'd click on that. Okay, so I'll just do a quick example of what this would look like in action. Click on it to make it go away. Let's choose one of the databases here. Okay, so I can just pick any of these here. And I'm going to open up the full text version of this article. And then if I want to add this to my library, what I would do is click on Zotero. This little button here is to add something. So this is a journal article that I'm going to add. And then this gets back to the part about, is this really worth your time? Because the time that you spend organizing your literature is time that you could be spending reading it and writing your paper. So that's sort of a personal decision. And for some people, they really get into this and get a lot out of it. I'm not sure I would, but I think it also depends on your discipline. Because if you had like 30 different papers that almost have identical titles, then something like this might be kind of handy. But other cases, not so much. So when you add it to your library, this is where you get to pretend you're a librarian, like you all have been wanting to do all your lives. Mm-hmm. You would go through here and fill in as many of these fields as are going to be relevant to you. And the reason you would want to do that is this is information that the program needs if later on it's going to be able to spit out an automated bibliography for you. Does that make sense? So all the stuff that you see in a bibliographic citation, like author last name, first initial, year of publication, title, publisher, city of publication, all that stuff, if Zotero is going to know what to do for you, it's going to have to get that either automatically, or in this case, you would have to enter it in. So, do you want to do that? I don't know.
I'm not quite sure what the benefit is to me.
The benefit comes at the end. And I'll show you, it looks a little more obvious in Mendeley, so I'll show you when we do that. At the end, you've written basically your entire dissertation, and every time you wanted to cite one of the documents in your library, you just hit a little button, and it sticks in the correct citation for in text. And when you get to the very end, you hit another button that says Generate Bibliography, and it goes... Mm-hmm.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. So
it puts it alphabetizes it also.
Mm-hmm. And it not only alphabetizes it, you don't have to type it. Because you've already typed it here, so all it's doing is querying your database and spitting it out the right way.
So it's very important that you put in the proper information.
Right. And depending on the formatting of what you're looking at, like this article here, mm-hmm. it may populate all these fields itself. Mm-hmm. Probably won't happen as often as you would like it to. But sometimes it'll be automatic. Other times you'll have to clean it up yourself.
And is that an APA style?
Yes. Products like these, I think all of these, give you a lot of different options about what style it'll use too. So you get MLA, Chicago, APA. Yeah.
Is it last try APA?
Should be, yeah. I mean, conceivably, you might accidentally install a 3-year-old version of this program that would have an older version, but yeah.
So let's say you have, like, I don't know, like 300 different journal articles, and you're writing dissertation, like, so when you go for the in-text citation or whatever you're doing, will it pull up a list of all those and hit a button and it'll insert it, or like, how does that work?
That's the general idea. The functionality looks different depending on what product you're looking at, but like, let me show you what it looks like here. In our Word document, we've got, under add-ins, we have different options based on the applications that are installed here. So, let's see. If I wanted to insert a citation, I would click on that. And it pops up the library that I have defined in this product, Mendeley, and then I just pick the item out of there that I want to cite. So like this one. And where... Go away. Oh, send citation to Word. Hey, let's hear it for reading. Okay, so I would highlight it and do that. And then go back here. And hopefully it did it. Let's see. Good thing it's free, huh?
Yeah. Why is there a 1?
Let's see. I think it's doing footnote. There we go. Yeah, it is doing footnotes. And then let's see if this works at all. That does not. Oh, there we go. So the footnote thing is one of the options that it has. You can also have it do the APA style of the parenthetical citations too. Yeah. I just don't have this one configured correctly. And what I just did with insert bibliography is you can see how it immediately, painlessly spit out this thing. Yeah. So this is the correctly formatted citation for the document that we made the footnote to. But you would, instead of footnotes, you could easily flip back and forth to the APA style. And so that's just a brief idea of what the benefit of doing this would be, if any. And let's see what else. So, any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. So maybe I'm expecting a little bit too much from this program. So say I'm going to cite a source, right? I'm going to paraphrase it. And then I say, okay, I'm looking for Haley. So I just go over here and look for whatever article I think I remember it came from, hit that one, and it'll just do Haley, 1984, and then just keep going, hit it again, and put it back, and it'll put it in references. Right.
The idea is that when you're writing along...
I'm just looking for it too easy.
No.
I've been doing it the manual way.
That's what I've always done. And we hear about this enough, and enough people ask us for help with these different citation managers that we want to try to be supportive, but it's definitely not for everybody, and I'm not totally convinced it's for anybody, because, like I said, you spend so much time building the library and managing it that takes away from your time to actually do the research. So, what I've always done is, while I'm writing along, I have right away when I start, let's say I'm going to write a dissertation today, I'll do a page break, and at the end of it, I start my bibliography right away. And then, I jump back up here. That's nice. And as I'm doing my writing, if I cite something, I'll immediately jump to the end and add it to the bibliography. Okay. And then when I've done that, I go back up and continue writing.
Yep. Okay.
And it accomplishes the same thing. You don't have to spend any money or install any software, and it works for me. But then again, I haven't done a massive multi-year dissertation. So, I guess if you had a stack of articles like this high, it might be nice to have another way of doing it.
It's good to have all the articles saved in the library and have them to go back.
Right. That part is nice, and I think it'll be really nice when we get to the stage where the article import brings along all the data, so you don't have to screw around with it. So if you don't have to enter the whole citation in Zotero or in EndNote, in order to have it later, then that would be a really good deal. But I don't think we're, yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No.
So with all of these software then, it'll automatically save a copy and then have the citation next to it? Is that what I saw, or was that just for the last one?
Save a copy, I'm not sure what you mean.
Yeah, when you pulled up, I don't know which one you pulled up, the article was to the left, but the entire article was to the left, and to the right was the citation. Is that how they all operate, or
nope.
did you save a copy?
Yeah, that's the one I'm going to talk about last because it's my favorite.
Oh, okay.
EndNote, I think, does not do that at all. And Zotero does it, but you only get 100 megabytes of storage, and you can buy extra if you want to. Mendeley, which is the last one that I'll talk about before I get out of the way here, this is a free product, and even for somebody like me I'm kind of skeptical of the citation manager software in general, this thing is pretty neat because they bill it as iTunes for research. And it's really a good way of explaining it because the same way iTunes takes a bunch of audio files or video files, helps you organize them, search them, move them around. That's what it's doing for documents, especially PDFs and Word documents, but I think it handles others too. And you can see here that this is the total library that we have defined. Over here we can organize it into different folders, divide it up if we want to. On this side are for this particular document, these are the different fields. So again, some of these get automatically filled in when you import it. Other times, like this, I was goofing around with how you can import things from the internet. So this is from an article from Wikipedia, and you can see that not very much stuff got automatically filled in. So if I wanted to, I'd have to go in and complete all that. But it's a program that you install on your computer. And along with that goes a sort of like a webmail account or something equivalent to that. And the two synchronize with each other. So the stuff that's in your library on your computer gets synchronized with your account on the internet. So if you lose your computer, you still have all your research documents. And it lets you store up to 500 megabytes of documents. And that's quite a bit. Just show you a couple other things about it. Let's see. It has some handy features like, you'll notice here in the browser I have this thing that says import to Mendeley, and that's just a sort of a web gadget. And what it does is whenever we're looking at a web page that's on sort of a publishing platform supported by Mendeley, we can hit that button and have that web page sucked into our library immediately. So one of those that is supported is Wikipedia. So we'll just see how that works. So I could find some article about, I don't know, bears. And if I wanted to add this to my library, I just click on Import to Mendeley. And it's going to think about it for a minute. Or two. Thanks, Internet. Okay. So now what it's done is it's looked at the web page I started from and has made its best guess about all the documents that are on it or that are linked to it. And the one I want is really just, let's see. Well, let's say I want this one about drunk bears in Slovakia. So what I'm going to do is, first choice is always the best, isn't it? This little plus sign next to it, click on that, and it's sent that over to my library. So I could close out of the browser completely and open up Mendeley on my desktop. And if I synchronize it, it should add in that new article. Yep, there we go. And again, didn't pull in much significant metadata, that's what that's called. But we could always add to this if we thought that would be a useful resource. And let's see.
This one's free, you said?
This is free, yes. I'm really surprised that it's still free and that it does all this stuff. Another thing just to show you is, let's go to, so I'm logged in right now, so anytime I want to, I can go to my library of documents and see these things listed here too. So all the same entries that are here are in the desktop version, so kind of nice.
So if your computer crashes, you can always get back to your new computer.
Yep. Exactly. And that's what I was about to say. What I would probably do with Mendeley is not use it for the citation management features, but use it for the document backup. So, because you can have all your stuff in here with none of the metadata, and you'll know that it's securely backed up someplace else and fairly easy to get to if you need it. But then you don't have to worry about entering all that data. And let's see.
So is it like every year, like in the library, when you copy an article, you can insert it to this memory? It has like
Let's try something here. It doesn't support everything. It supports a whole bunch of stuff, though. In order for it to import correctly, whatever web page you're at has to be from a publisher that they know how things are formatted with. So let's see what I did here. So I think, like I just did a Google search for depression, and we'll take this first one here. And if I wanted to try importing this, probably going to get an error. Yeah. It says, sorry, the import failed. We support importing documents from the following sites. That's quite a few. And especially because some of these are, like here's APA PsycNet. So that's a really big site that includes lots of different sections. So a lot of also Sage. What these are mostly consisting of are database publishers or vendors. So if you see it listed here, then good chance that it's going to work. The other thing is, this little button here is just the extremely lazy way to do it. There's also the regular sort of manual way to do it, which is if we found a full text PDF article in EBSCOhost, let's say, and we want to import that into Mendeley, all we do is download it to the hard drive and then put it into our library, which is like a folder on our computer. And then the next time it synchronizes, it'll back that up too.
Can you do it?
Do it? Sure. Let's see. Okay, so here's one. And just gonna try importing it. I don't think it'll work. But I don't know what that's doing. So what I'm going to do instead is save it locally. And then so we've got a copy of it sitting right here. So what I need to do is open up Mendeley and tell it to add a document. And I'm just going to browse over to it. And there it is. And this little message here is telling me this is our best guess about how to describe this thing. So you can either say that we guessed correctly, or you can search on Google Scholar to try to get better data to fill in all these boxes. I'll just tell it the details are correct. And then, so now I've imported it into the Mendeley library on this computer. So the last thing to do would be to synchronize the library. And it's going to send a copy up to the website version of my library.
And you can also delete from there.
Yep.
So first you run that article and then add that to it, and then
Yep. And then, lots of nice little conveniences too. Maybe you have all your stuff on your laptop and you're at class telling somebody about this great article that you read. You can't show it to them right away, but you could go onto their laptop, go into Mendeley's website version and download it from your library.
Actually, print up the documents on the desktop too and drag it into that.
Oh yeah.
So it's super easy. I just put it on that.
Yep. So, those are, again, by no means is any of this fun stuff necessary, but in some situations it's helpful. And I think the way that it backs up the source documents that you're using, instead of, some services would just save the citations, but you still wouldn't have the whole article if you had lost that. This makes sure that you have a copy of everything, so I think it's worthwhile just for that. And with that, I could jump back to my presentation for the ending slide, but it's really not worth it, so.
Okay,
I'd like to
just take over.
Yeah, please, unless there are any other questions. Cool.
So when we added to the library, how can we
when you install Mendeley, what it does is it asks you if you want to install plugins for Microsoft Word. So then in Microsoft Word, this is what it looks like. Under add-ins, you'll see now that there are options to insert a citation or insert a whole bibliography. And what those little buttons do is communicate with Mendeley. So if we tell it we want to insert a citation, it immediately launches Mendeley so we can tell it which one we want to insert a citation for.
Do you have to manually type it in unless you search for the appropriate information and because it's filled in?
You would have had to type it in here if it weren't filled in.
Okay.
But when we're inserting the citation, all we have to do right now is just pick it out of the list and then hit Send Citation to Word. So if it doesn't do a good job of guessing, then you do have to fill it in. Other questions?